Welcome. Good morning. This is Cliff Watkin from Circle Strategies. We're really happy to have you here today, and we're really excited to talk about what's going on at Circle Strategies. So we're going to have a presentation for you today to talk about what new services that we're offering specifically around the learning and development space. Now, when we talk about learning and development and where we are today, most importantly, there's a lot going on outside of the environment, outside of your work environment. And those are things like many employees resigning, and we don't know why. In some cases, we know that the employees are leaving because their managers haven't provided them the leadership and development experiences that they're looking for. In some cases, it's been that the organization's going through some significant changes and employees don't feel comfortable. And what's overall a theme that has evolved is that the managers are leading people based on leadership styles that they have learned over the years. And employees are now setting boundaries for how their well being within the organization should be. And there's a disconnect there. What we want to talk about is how those managers and leaders got to where they are in terms of how they have learned their skill set and what's needed going forward. Leaders have operated with this leadership style and skill set for many years, and it's brought them a lot of success. But the social changes around us today, the propelled propelled by the pandemic, and so those significant changes, there's a need now for much more intentionality from the leaders of the organizations with regards to how they're leading people. Leaders need to inspire and get their culture better prepared to meet the needs of their customers and their employees, specifically now, but definitely as they set the groundwork for the future. So join us today as we talk with our Circle Strategies Leads team. This is a team of learning and development experts about how we work with organizations using their specific skill sets to allow those individuals in the organization and the managers and the employees specifically, helping them through their learning and development journey. So, why are we here today, and what is Circle Strategies Leads? Well, we put together this team of experts who have had a lot of experience when it comes to leading organizations, leading specific individuals, and chose the name leading or lead because that's what we're doing. We're leading all of these individuals through their journey. And so to get to know this team a little bit better, I'm going to start off by sharing with you a little bit about me, that I have always had the superhero power that I used when my children were a lot younger. And that is, I'm able to shoot bacon grease out of the wrists of my hands to ward off any bad uh, people that are trying to attack me, ward off any bad feelings that are coming to me. And that's how I manage to be successful in what I'm trying to get done. And so, anybody else want to share what you have as a specific prior experience? Let's start off with Cara, and tell us what your childhood actress crush was.
Oh, well, actor and actress, I would have to say, hands down, Julie Andrews and Dick Van Dyke, because I come from a family of performers and singers. So the American movie musical was a big part of our household. So they're both triple threats. They're both incredibly uh, po- positive human beings that display this contagion of laughter and good feelings, and they were just so talented at everything that they did.
Yes, I totally agree. And did you say people in your family were in the acting business? Did I hear that right?
Well, my mother was a stage performer, and my father was a really good singer as well. So we grew up with music and stage performance.
That's wonderful. Well,
Mhm.
great to learn that about you, and I think that certainly must provide you with slightly different perspective in terms of how you're working with people in your in your coaching role.
Mhm.
Michael, tell us what was the your most favorite item that you bought this year.
Sure, Cliff. I actually bought I don't know if people are familiar with the Calm app. It's a meditative
Oh,
application that also allows you to, get inspirational perspectives as well. What it's given me, honestly, is just a sense of clarity of my thinking and my emotions, which has really helped me to be present when I'm coaching others without judgment and getting all caught up with trying to solve problems. And with that, it creates more space for the person who I'm working with to realize they have all the answers within themselves and get broaden their perspective on, what are some opportunities they may not have thought of that are available to them. So I use it not every day, but at least a couple times a week. And even for 5 minutes, it makes a huge difference in my day.
I have it too, and when I got it, the first thing I just did was listened to the sounds that the app provides, and I didn't realize, but my favorite sound was the sound of rain. And whenever I'm needing a little bit of a break in the crazy world that we live in, I just turn on the rain. And I've now become known to be constantly saying, just listen to the summer rain, just listen to the summer rain. So yes, great tool. There's lots of other things that it provides, but thank you, Michael. Melissa, so you, I believe, had a least favorite food as a child, and I want to know what it is, and do you still hate it or do you love it now?
Oh, yes, of course. My mother was a very creative chef and cook in the kitchen and still is to this day. And she would, she and my father would entertain a lot and bring people home. And so as a child, I experienced a lot of different foods, which was sometimes wonderful and sometimes not so much. And so the meal that I despised the most and still do would be um, some of you from my generation might have had the same thing: liver with onions and accompanied by lima beans. And to me, it, yeah, the chalky taste and yeah, none of it. And the liver was often, not cooked well. And so yeah, it was. I don't like it so much still. So there you have it. But I do love cooking and I love the creativity. So I did inherit that from my mom. And there are a lot of other foods that I do still enjoy from her vast array of food that she offered us as kids. So
That's fantastic. It's really funny. I love liver and onions. So I'm not the person to talk to about that. Uh, but there is the right way to cook it. So that's great. Um, and last but not least, Jamie, I believe you have a dream job that you want to share with us.
Yes. So, and also Melissa, I just in my head, I knew you were going to say liver. I felt that that was coming out. I didn't predict the line of things.
yeah.
So
Um,
when I have you guys over for dinner, liver and onions are not on the menu.
Correct.
No, thank
Well,
you.
you could have them on the menu, but Jamie and I will be heading down to the corner, pub to get some different food. So
I'll be joining you. I will be joining you.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So my dream job would be to be arranging flowers all day. Um, I love arranging things. I love having things look, just perfect. And with flowers, they're beautiful anyway, but I can just keep putting things in and moving things around until it looks perfect. So that would be my dream job but then I had a florist, and that would mean I would have to deliver things and have to be forced to get things done, which then wouldn't make it as fun. So just at home, just at my own pace, arranging flowers.
Yes, I can see that in you actually. Um, it is a but there is a lot of skill and a lot of creativity that goes into that, I'm sure. And also it could be very therapeutic and calming to spend that time doing that.
Well, and I was going to say similar but different to the Calm app. The scent of working with flowers, especially some that are more aromatic, would have, I would imagine, a very calming effect. Of walking by a flower shop yesterday, I wanted to go in, just the smell alone, just to go in and just soak it up. So it would be a nice. I'm sure there's a nice calming effect for you on that.
Yes, and I think the perfect thing would be arranging flowers and then having my ear pods in with the Calm app.
Right.
There you go.
Listening to summer rain.
And background.
That would be great. Well, thank you all for sharing a little bit of some personal stuff about you all. Now let's just take a little bit of an opportunity to learn about your specialties and your skill sets when it comes to learning and development. We're going to start with Cara. And Cara has a lot of experience when it comes to positive intelligence. And what I want to understand from you, Cara, what is positive intelligence and why has it become such an important conversation in today's learning and development realm?
Sure. So to first answer your question, what is positive intelligence? Positive intelligence is it's a program that helps people develop their mental fitness so that they can recover from setbacks and challenges faster and easier. And what that does is it really helps people to step out of the reactivity of the survival brain into an area of the brain where they can be more responsive and approach and handle challenges and setbacks with much more positive emotions. And that's not forced positivity. It just means a greater place of peace and calm, because nobody makes good decisions while under stress. And by training ourselves to literally rewire the brain in this way, to step out of the survival brain and into the part of the brain which is better able to handle challenges, we are able to see incredible results in terms of managing and developing healthier personal and professional relationships, as well as handling decisions, making better decisions, and increasing job performance, as well as creating an easier sense of overall health and well-being. And since our own happiness and health and well-being is brought into the office and into our teams, that creates a contagious effect, either negatively or positively. So being able to develop your mental fitness in this way really does have seismic results in teams and in terms of job performance and the overall organization. So it's helping you to positively impact all of the various ecosystems that you touch.
And so for those participants who are listening in today, they're probably learning about positive intelligence for the first time, hearing those words for the first time. So from an organization's perspective, what is it that they're seeing or learn or should be looking for to recognize that maybe positive intelligence is something that they should consider?
Well, I do believe that the Positive Intelligence program, it is a 6-week mental fitness program that's designed for busy professionals. It is an app-based program that is coach supported, that helps you to develop these tools. But what I really do believe is that it's a foundational piece for that allows for all other executive coaching, skill building, and training to really take root, to really get past superficial learning faster and be able to step into application easier. So it's allowing people to be able to put themselves in check and be able to manage that moment. So when you know that you are being hijacked, and we help you to understand how you get hijacked on a daily basis, and be able to manage that hijacking faster and easier so that you can recover and step into presence and be able to manage whatever conflict is in front of you or whatever setback is in front of you, and step away from the negative emotions and into positive emotions. And what this means for teams is we're able to measure results in terms of how much time people spend in positive or negative emotions. And there is a certain tipping point, which comes right out of positive psychology. And when individuals and teams collectively are above a tipping point of 75, they are constantly, that is a team or a relationship in general, that's constantly building each other up. But if they're below 75, that is a team or a relationship or a partnership that is constantly dragging each other down and eroding the relationship little by little over time. So it winds up being the difference between working with the wind at your back or constantly working against the wind. So there's no doubt that people get things done under stress. They do it all the time, but we waste an awful lot of time and energy in the process when we do it being hijacked by all of these negative emotions. So it's about training the individual and then the team to work together to step into a different mindset, to be able to approach it with less judgment or without judgment, more discernment, and to be able to handle whatever is in front of them through a sense of ease and calm. And that enables everything else that comes, all other coaching, all other skill building, all other consensus building, to be that much more effective and successful. So it operationalizes strengths assessments. It operationalizes the tenets of emotional intelligence, personal and social awareness. And that's why I think it's an absolutely fabulous foundational piece and tool that almost every human being could benefit from.
What is a good concrete example that you might be able to share with us so that we can see where the roadblocks were with maybe an example or some work that you might have done, and then what was done to work through it, and so that when that person gets hijacked, how they access that learning and then be able to move through it?
Yes. So I was working with a client whose native language is not English, and this is a CEO of a small company, and he not only needed to help in managing nerves, but also help in his articulation in English, help with his personal presence, help with his language and body skills, because 60% of his marketing is done through giving presentations and in investor meetings. So his ability to be able to step into a sense of personal presence and a state of calm allows him to slow down. It allows him to think better. It allows him to be less reactive and to be less nervous, and to be able to present himself with by inspiring confidence, which is huge if you're trying to get investors to invest in your company, and to be able to handle the conflict and the stress of those conversations much easier and faster. Another example I can give you in healthcare, and this comes from a colleague of mine actually, working with a surgeon who had a very unsuccessful resuscitation in the operating room. And ordinarily, he might have had taken an awful lot of time to recover from that, but he was able to step away and do the exercises that we teach them and be able to turn around and be able to be fully present for his next patient and move on with his day. So it's not about stepping into some sort of forced positivity. It's about being able to right yourself and being able to get back to neutral and being able to step back into whatever it is that you need to do with full presence, and be able to shed the stress and anxiety and difficulties and challenges that you are facing, so that you can face the day and face whatever challenges that are in front of you with greater sense of presence and calm.
So this type of learning and development solution could be provided for one individual or a group of individuals. And correct me if I'm wrong, if over the 6 weeks, each person is learning what are their roadblocks and what is it that they could potentially learn to overcome that. And then they're practicing that through the 6 weeks and then doing additional practicing post the program. Am I saying that correctly?
Absolutely. So the program is this beautiful synthesis of 4 major areas of science that aren't new. And along with some original research, it's a synthesis of cognitive behavioral psychology, positive psychology, neuroscience, and performance science. And what they did was they took the best areas of these 4 major areas of science and put it together in an operating system that people can use every day, so that you are understanding. They've come through their research to identify that there are basically 10 ways that people sabotage themselves every single day. And so there is a little assessment that you can take to understand how you get sabotaged every day. And then we focus on those areas of sabotage or those saboteurs. And through doing that, you're able to dispel the myths of those saboteurs and then start to develop the positive side of your brain. So through the application, we are interrupting your day in small increments to constantly make that switch from negative part of the brain, the survival brain, to the part of your brain that thrives, or what we call the PQ brain. And by doing that, it's like doing any other exercise. You're creating a certain level of mental fitness the same way you would go to the gym. So you're practicing in small increments regularly, and you are rewiring the brain in sorts. Well, you're definitely rewiring the brain by increasing the gray matter in the area of the brain, that the mid-prefrontal cortex, that allows your thriving brain and all of the positive emotions to be applied and to be present in this situation. So that is something that we develop over 6 to 8 weeks. And then we get really granular into terms of, so how is this showing up in your life? And that's when we can approach internal conflicts between team members, or focus on, I had another client of mine that got really, really nervous. She had to speak to thousands of people online. And so how can she step into a greater sense of presence without judging herself and being hijacked, but instead be able to manage her emotions and be more in charge? So those saboteurs, or those agents of sabotage, are sitting in the background and they're not running the show. So what we say is, if you're woken up in the middle of the night by stress and anxiety, and if you are experiencing any kind of negative emotions of anger or frustration or resentment or bitterness or anxiety or stress or upset, you are not running your mind. And so what we're trying to help you to do is to run your own mind. And what that does is it has a contagious effect on everybody around you. And it only takes one person to approach a conversation in a healthier state of mind to change the direction of that conversation. So we hear all the time that people's marriages have been saved, that they're able to handle conflicts within their workplaces in a much healthier way and have those courageous conversations that are difficult, but with a lot less stress. So people are not in their camps, but they can find that middle ground and that consensus in the middle through being creative, starting with empathy. That's the first power of the sage, is empathy.
Great. Well, thanks, Cara. And just to summarize who you are, let's do that before we jump on over to Michael.
Sure. Well, I'm a performance coach, and I use my background as an actor and professional singer to help clients speak with authority and greater presence. But I'm also a positive intelligence coach, and that's my newest thing, the thing that I'm most proud of now. And I work with clients to develop their mental fitness. And by doing this, we see seismic changes in terms of their overall health and well-being, the health of their personal and professional relationships, and enormous changes in their job performance and decision-making skills.
Great. Thank you very, very much.
My pleasure.
Michael, let's hear a little bit about you and your skill set that you bring to Circle Strategies Leads. You have been in the HR world for the majority of your career, and specifically doing some training internally in organizations, and then also doing some coaching work. And so within our traditional employee training and management services, whether it be business or specific skill sets that employees need to be more successful, uh, one coming to mind is introduction to being a supervisor. Um, would you mind just sharing a little bit about what types of training programs you've done and some of the training programs that you like to do, and then a little bit about how your coaching falls within that?
Sure, Cliff. Yeah. So, I think everyone knows that most learning happens through experience. And so we're very mindful that when we're creating any type of learning solutions, that we really try to make it experiential as opposed to, but, having said that, there are moments where it's helpful to be in a workshop setting to really just absorb and hear information. But the power happens when folks are able to connect with each other and share experiences, and apply some of the concepts in the day-to-day work. So as we think about leadership and management, especially the people that are mid-level leaders who sit between the space of leadership and management, we all recognize that our audiences have different experiences, different challenges, and different needs, and there's clearly overlap. And so the more we can help segment those populations and better understand, knowing that people are very busy, what is the framework in which they can use to take in new information, apply it, test it, and go on to the next. And so providing that framework, some people call it a competency model or a leadership model or a management expectations framework, whatever it is, we usually start with that. And so assessments from a coaching perspective are also quite powerful when we're designing program and curriculum, to be able to give people a sense of, how do others experience them, and where may their strengths lie, as well as things that maybe they can improve upon, but also what are those things that really just can really get in the way of them being effective. And so oftentimes when we think about those types of segments, leadership and management, there is overlap, but there is some differences. In the leadership space, it's, really looking at leading yourself, leading others, leading organizations. With management, it's really around, I think of it in four ways. One, looking to create clarity of purpose and direction for associates. Number two, giving associates that feeling of what's expected of me in my job. So as we think about performance management, goal setting, feedback, regular feedback, conversations, career planning, and also goal setting and performance reviews. And then the last thing I would say is being able to create that culture of engagement. And as we think about the world today, one of the biggest challenges for people managers is managing in a virtual space. So hybrid, virtual
Yes.
models, distributed teams, of course.
Yes, that is one of the additional challenges that many managers have today when it comes to communication and engagement, is the hybrid model. So I heard you talk earlier about experiential learning, and we all know that individuals learn in different ways. There's not one size that fits all. Uh, there's the hands-on touching type of learning. There's the auditory learning. There's the visual learning, and experiential learning is a great way to try and attack all of those within some kind of learning program that you're providing. In some of the experiences and the training that you have done, could you share maybe one way you have provided some experiential learning, and how did it turn out? Just give us a brief
Yeah,
framework of what it was and what people experienced.
sure, Cliff. I guess because we started talking about virtual management. Let me go with that. And so, as I've been working with a couple clients in this area, it's, what we're trying to do is sort of take it away from just focusing in on that people are not in the office, but try to raise it up a bit and say, and develop the curriculum and program around. So, high level, what is it we're trying to solve for beyond just working remote? And so, the way that sort of the overall, I guess, goal, if you will, is rather than focus on remote working and management, focus on connecting and collaborating, building connection and collaboration among teams.
Mhm.
And then below that, we've identified 3 specific goals. The first one is promoting and embracing collaboration tools, of course, when you're managing virtual teams. And a lot of people, just aren't comfortable with all of the new tools and technologies, but it's really
Yes.
being able to promote it, right? So that people are embracing this. Secondly, it's increasing the integration of flexible work arrangements and work-life balance solutions. So it's not to create more, it's really to take what we have already and integrate them in a way that allows for people to feel as though that this is supported, that leaders feel like they have trust in terms of their associates being productive when they don't see them. And the third one is valuing and leveraging differences in work styles and teamwork. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of different ways that people bring them their authentic self to work, and that have preferences around their different styles. And it's really being able to value that for what it is and find, that sweet spot to be able to pull them all together and create that sort of inclusive sense of belonging, sense of joy, sense of connection.
Great. Well, thank you. As we think about you and being part of the team, could you just share a little bit about your skill set?
Yeah, sure, Cliff. I would say that one of the things that has followed me through my 30 plus years as a human resource leader for a couple Fortune 500 companies has really been the ability to create trust and openness with others. And secondly, I would say, as part of that, being curious about what people are either bringing or could be bringing to the conversation, to the workplace, and really sincerely having no judgment or attachment to whatever that is, just being very open to that possibility. I would say that that's been a journey I've been on. I think the Calm app has helped me a bit to stay sort of present and in the moment with non-judgment. So thanks for asking.
No problem. I loved how you said and spoke about curiosity. And I happened to learn a couple of months ago about curiosity being one of the foundations for the start of empathy, and never put the two together. That individuals who have a difficult time being empathetic uh, also have a difficult time being curious. So thanks. That's fantastic. Great to have you on the team. And so, Melissa, give us some experience and background about you, and it'll be great to hear some of your experiences that you've had over the years, focusing on leadership development and coaching, and all of the things that get you excited when you're brought into an organization to take them through a huge leadership development journey.
Oh, thanks, Cliff. And it's so exciting to be here with this group of other fabulous humans and resonating with everything that Cara has said and Michael has said, and so it's an honor to be here with you folks. What gets me excited about my work is I come with similar to you, Michael, curiosity and a sense of optimism that really anything's possible. And so I am excited when I am brought in to work and help leaders develop and grow, and look to find what's unique and what is the culture within the organization that we're being brought into, and then look at how can we bring the leadership skills that are needed for the leaders in that organization to develop and become their own unique version of a leader. Because with 8 billion people on this planet, none of us are exactly alike. And how we demonstrate those skills and competencies may look and sound a little different. And I think there's a challenge sometimes there for folks in recognizing how do I show up. I might look a little different than Michael's version of curiosity, for example. And so really providing lots of opportunities for folks to do that. I think the most exciting for me is to work with a leadership team that is looking to be more of a healthy team, whether as individuals as well as the team, and sort of figure out how can they get out of their own way to bring their best selves to work, and then create an ecosystem for the organization where other people can come and bring their best selves to work. And looking at how does that leadership development cascade throughout the ecosystem. It's really exciting for me to see folks learn and the light bulbs go off and the aha moments as they practice and learn and get feedback that they're making change. And it's really really exciting for me. I had one gentleman from Atlanta who, at the end of a 9-month program, we had 2 residential weeks and a lot of webinars and work back at their job. So it was a very much of a hybrid, and as Michael was saying, application in the experience in the real world. And I got a quick video of him at the end saying, "What did this all mean to you?" And he was in tears, and he was talking about how he never would have thought he thought he had reached his ceiling, and he never imagined that there was more. And he was just so grateful to the company for offering him the opportunity to see that he had a lot more places to grow. And he talked about being a grandfather, and he thought he was done. And that just makes my heart sing. So
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, when you have those really, really important personal moments. So if you wouldn't mind thinking through some of your leadership development experiences with organizations, and share with us about one where maybe it was important to you in the sense that it resonated with the work that you were doing, or maybe it was really important to the organization, where you took the organization through a leadership journey and provided a leadership development program for them. Could you just share a little bit about that from the beginning to the end?
Yeah, sure. So there was a manufacturing plant that the leader had been brought in, and he was really very skilled subject matter expert and had been an amazing leader in other organizations, looked like on paper. And when he got to the organization, it was very clear that the subject matter expertise was there, and his people skills was not so much. And so the organization was having some performance issues. They were being micromanaged by another, sort of the corporate office because of the performance issues. There were cultural issues with trust and various levels of leadership. So we started with that one individual who was in charge, did some executive leadership coaching with that person, and then worked with the team, provided some feedback. The whole leadership team got some coaching as a team, but then as individuals to really help learn how can they build some trust with each other. And once they had that trust, how can they have productive, healthy conflict? Because that's so important for a leadership team to be able to have different ideas and to put all the ideas out on the table and wrestle with them and figure out what's best for the company, not what's best for my part of the organization. That's and then identifying how are they going to commit to what they as a leadership team have agreed to commit to, and then how do they hold each other accountable for those results, right? So all of those pieces, it's like a pyramid. And if we don't start with that base level of the trust and the relationships, we build on a house of cards. And so it really was starting with that leadership team, Cliff, that really helped to, if you're going to turn a large ship like the QE2, you don't start with the rudder. We all know, many of us know you start with the trim tab, right? So you start with little changes first, and then you can start to turn the culture. And so after working with the leadership team, we worked with the next level down of leaders and did similar work with them and looking at not only how can they develop their own emotional intelligence and their own systems of how they're going to communicate and their own trust and having productive conflict, and then looking at how can their various departments, research and development and operations and sales, marketing and operations, sometimes there's a little friction there, and how could they all sort of be rowing in the same boat towards the same goal, just pulling on different oars, but doing that together. And Cliff, it was just so exciting. Within 12 months, we were able to see such a significant shift, not only in trust and productivity at the leadership team, but the performance level. The folks at corporate could identify a significant, improvement in all the metrics that in the manufacturing would be looking for, and we're really really pleased with the work. And it made, it did the smart stuff. It made for great productivity, but also healthy as far as an organizational culture. It was a much more open, congenial place to work, and the focus was on having relationships that allowed them to then do the work they needed to do more effectively. And so identifying the leadership skills that were needed by the folks at the different levels, and then looking at how could they learn from each other and have relationships that allowed them to become their best selves was really important.
Yes, and I think when you outline this example, often you hear organizations say, well, what's the return on investment, and how am I going to measure it, and how am I going to make this huge investment in leadership development, training, coaching, whatever we want to call it, and how am I going to be able to measure the outcomes of it? And I think you're striking a very important point, which is that's what we focus on as an organization, bringing the right skill set to do the work, but also ensuring that there is a metric or whatever we're going to call it that's tied to the success of the organization. And we're able to measure it at the end to be able to say, okay, here's what we did, here's the outcomes, and then you have now institutionalized it within the organization so you can see continuous growth and improvement. So thank you.
Cliff, I would just add one little thing. I think one of the pieces that's important to me is to co-create those metrics and work with the company, because once we exit stage left, it's their business. They need
Yeah.
to inculcate. They need to continue to grow. It's not on us to be the answer. We're the
Yes.
shepherds and helping them get there. So yeah.
And that's a foundation for a much healthier outcome. I totally agree when they're creating the metrics and working with those to be successful. So share with us just a brief little summary of your skill set.
Oh goodness. I would say I have 30 plus years of helping facilitate individual, personal, and professional growth and development. I've got certified coach in several different modalities and consulting, and my focus is utilizing experiential application, like similar to what Michael was saying, whether it's practice simulation or actual flipped classroom approach. And I bring leadership development, organizational development, change management, expertise, and I've been a senior leader in both finance and manufacturing, as well as a consultant for a number of other consulting companies, and I have loved every minute of all of it, and I think it brings a perspective to my work that I've been able to be in a variety of seats, if you will, that really helps my ability to bring my my optimism and my human-centric approach to the work. So I'm delighted to be here, and thanks, Cliff.
You're welcome. It's great to have you here. And one area that we haven't spoken about, which has to do with performance management, and Jamie Resker has a special skill when it comes to performance management. And when I chose to add performance management as part of our leadership and development program, I chose it very deliberately. And that is, oftentimes organizations focus on learning and development and find it difficult to connect the learning that is being provided to the individual, whether it be a requirement or whether it be something that the individual chose to do. Um, they find it difficult to connect that to an ongoing process. And performance management is the way to connect it to an ongoing process. And so, yes, we have organizations that have a performance management program, and people are reviewed quarterly, semi-annually, annually, and in there, some sort of leadership development or coaching or learning and development component is built into their performance review. And that's the part that isn't always set and provided for individuals. Sometimes it's included in the performance review, sometimes it's not. And so in putting together the Circle Strategies lead service offerings, I felt it's really important to include performance management to ensure that whatever coaching or leadership development training is provided to the organization, that they have the resources and tools to be able to ensure that their performance management programs are strong. And having an expert in that area like Jamie is important because we have the skill set to be able to provide that. But in addition, Jamie provides a slightly different perspective on performance management, which she calls having an ongoing conversation. So, Jamie, why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how you came to have that perspective on performance management?
Okay, so it goes back to the 80s when I had my first performance review. It was at a retail store. I won't name the name, but a specialty retail store. And I was in what was called personnel at the time. So this is how far back we're going. And
it seems like yesterday, Jamie. It seems like yesterday.
It's a long time. So I had my first performance review, and I was completely blindsided by the information I received. I was new in my career, and I needed a lot of coaching and support. And I thought everything was going fine because I had never gotten any information from my boss. And so that was my first experience. And I think that that planted the seed, because then, of course, I went to different organizations, pretty much the same thing. I kind of grew in my career, became HR, and had experienced a number of different performance review processes, you know, the categories of, you know, competencies, the ratings, the overall ratings, goals. And finally, I went to my first head of HR job. That was where I was heading. I wanted to be head of HR someplace myself. I was at a technology company, and they had nothing in place. They had benefits and payroll. So one of the first things I put into place was the annual performance review form, which I thought was great. Again, competencies, the ratings, and everybody complained about it. And, you know, I just couldn't believe that they were upset, because I thought it was just a great process. Annual reviews, looking backwards. And then we were growing, we were acquiring companies, growing organically. So within 2 years, I had a team of 10 people that reported to me, and guess who had to use her own process? Then I realized, you know, I had the perspective from being an employee, from being in HR, and now the perspective of, you know, using the process as a manager. And so that kind of started my thinking about and of course I changed the form. I did online tools, thinking this is going to change things. I remember everybody kept rating people as exceeds expectations. And I thought, well, that's because, you know, we should have more people in the middle, meets expectations. If I just change the wording to solid performer, which is so much more positive, that's going to get more managers to put people in that category. And of course, that did not work. So just over many years, and finally I had kind of come to the conclusion that we needed to not look backwards. So annual performance review, 12 months, let's look backwards. How many months of performance or anything can somebody freshly remember? So I started to think about having smaller conversations, but not just conversations about tasks and projects. Did you get that done? Those are typical one-on-ones or day-to-day conversations. So today, what it's called is continuous performance management. And to me, the definition is you have conversations about what's working now and how to be more effective moving ahead. So now moving ahead, never let's get here and look backwards. And I think the big challenge a lot of organizations will have is, well, we can't get rid of ratings because we need those to make pay decisions. Well, most organizations are making pay decisions based on market data, especially today. Nobody gets a 3% pay increase for merit pay and says, great, that's going to be so exciting. 3% is a cost of living increase. So performance reviews are not needed to make pay decisions. That can be done. And of course, when they're relying on pay decisions, everybody gets the highest rating. So we all know that that doesn't make sense. But as you said, my focus is on, so there's a little bit of training for managers, for everybody. There's a training that everybody goes through. I say they're all employees. Everybody's an employee. So you know how to kind of assess where you think you're at. Think about performance as two things: work results and observable behaviors or actions. And showing people how to ask the right questions, not waiting for feedback. And I think anybody in HR knows that the common advice is, Michael, is it give feedback often and early?
Exactly.
Early and often?
Absolutely. Don't wait till the bitter end.
Yeah.
A year later.
But we also know saying that doesn't make it come true, because again, when I was a manager, I was so good at telling managers, you know, getting upset that, okay, you want to put this person on an exit plan. You've never had a conversation with them. It's not in the performance review. And again, then I started managing people, and I was not, you know, taking my own advice. So I feel like the focus is on people asking questions, and just really, I have something called the 10-minute question conversation. And the conversation literally takes a few minutes to prepare for, about 10 minutes to ask and answer the questions. But, you know, starting with the employee highlighting something that's gone well recently, they pick a topic under something they want to get better at or develop, or, you know, what's one thing you want to learn about or get involved in, or here's the one thing I'd like to, you know, try out, or could you, you know, hand off this responsibility to me. So more about not where do you want to be in 2 years, but right now, what's going to help you feel like you're growing and developing. And then asking the question under the category of what am I doing well that I should keep doing? So part of the training is, how do you give better quality, positive feedback? You don't want to just say, keep up the good work, or you're a great team player. You know, just what's the person doing specifically, and what's their positive impact? And then last is they ask, what's one thing I can do to be even more effective moving ahead? And I used to have a framework that had just a few questions under each of those categories. And now there's, 10, 15, 20 questions that people can choose from. So it keeps it interesting so that they can ask based on what they want to know. And then, of course, the manager's asking, as your boss, what's one thing I'm doing to support you that's working that I should keep doing? And what's one way I can support you more, work better with you? Those are the categories. And at the end, there's some action items. Who's going to do what by when? And so I call it the 10-minute questions conversation. And the emphasis is never reviewing and judging and evaluating the past. I think that triggers, like Kara was saying, kind of our brain-based reaction is if we feel like we're being judged, we feel like we're being like being attacked. So, and also people know, here's what I'm going to talk about. They already know in advance. They're not waiting there for being reviewed with a performance review. It's kind of like there's 3 different roles. The judge and the jury, that's the manager. And then the defendant is the employee. And you're just kind of really waiting to hear the verdict read. And the manager does all the talking. So,
and I think that's very liberating to be able to get out of that judge and jury environment and move to an ongoing conversation where everybody's feeling like, yeah, somebody's watching, looking at me, giving me feedback, or I can feel very comfortable to go to my supervisor and ask for some feedback.
right.
So we're a little short on time. And if you could just share with us a little bit about your skill set, that would be great, Jamie.
I think it's really just showing people. Of course, we can't just say to somebody, "Here's our new performance management process." I tell people get rid of that whole term, get rid of review assessment, and just rebrand things, but not rebrand it and just say, "Here's a new title," but change the experience for people. And so the training is, there's a change management piece in it because we're trying to influence people and get them to think differently, and and show them. I even do a demo of in all of my clients of 2 people doing the 10-minute questions conversation so that they know what it is and what it isn't. But I think just also helping organizations still be able to assess where people are. So I have a 4-square model that helps measure work results and behavior and kind of this process to see where's the person now and where do we want them to be. But the big thing is, and you can see it, it's called the employee performance continuum. The big thing is it's not about putting people into a box, although sometimes people think that way. And here's where I plotted the person and then they move on. It really should be done to think about what's going to be the one thing that's going to help this person be more effective, and then how do I find the right words that really focus on the possibilities and what could be and should be, as opposed to giving people feedback about the past.
Great. Thank you very, very much. So as we come to the end of our podcast, thank you all for participating. I thought I'd just summarize the 4 main areas that Circle Strategies Leads provides our services within. And we've talked about coaching, and there's a variety of different ways we do our coaching. One of them we highlighted, which is positive intelligence coaching. And I think what's important to understand is that we have a focus on what that coaching is. We want to just make sure we gain the clarity on goals. We want to identify barriers. We want to look at the challenges. We want to help people through a system of accountability to ensure that the coaching is successful. And really, our main outcome is to focus on improving overall performance. Our second area has to do with leadership development, and this is where we improve leadership skills so that an organization can have improved productivity and performance. This is something that organizations struggle with, and they're focused on the daily, getting through the goals and objectives, but making sure that you have increased productivity and performance is difficult. And so we help organizations get there. We also provide equity and inclusion assessment and implementation strategies for organizations where we help them create a significant shift forward so that the organization can be successful and profitable. And lastly, an area that all organizations across all individuals within those organizations are looking for traditional training, business experience, business success skill sets that we provide and have a full curriculum for. So as we get to the end, thank you all from my team of participating in this podcast. Thank you all for listening in and hearing what we have to say about Circle Strategies Lead. And I think we're, like I said in the beginning, at an inflection point where organizations are challenged today with the way they have been providing leadership development, coaching, and training to organizations. And hopefully organizations can feel that Circle Strategies Lead will provide some solutions to help them get there. Thank you.